For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm up from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends as we're taking a look at this great game of baseball. Johnny Venezia does great work over at Rotowire. We're going to be taking a look at some of these awards races. We're going to be taking a look at some of the teams that have been big giant fades to begin the season. I'm looking at you, the Colorado Rockies, and we're going to be discussing how he's taking a look at the Rookie of the Year race as well, as I do think that that's very intriguing because he also does a lot of college baseball, so we're going to be looking on that front in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, Larry CM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you're at this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is brought to you by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 on leap years, 366 days out of the year, because it's not something that's running on credit or anything like that. It's just an account that you're able to utilize for all of your gaming and gambling transactions. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G, you get a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit of up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Now in Behind the Curtain, every Saturday, I always host the show Cashing Out on VSiN, so I do have to do this a little bit in advance, so not sure how Orioles, Angels, and Blue Jays Mariners panned out, and quite a few of these games are still in progress, but what we do know is that the Philadelphia Phillies, they went on the road, they got the job done against the Cleveland Guardians, this by a count of 7-1. As for the Guardians, it's been actually a pretty solid season for them thus far. It's been a little bit herky-jerky with regards to the pitching, though, and for Ranger Suarez, very good in this one. He was able to pitch 7 scoreless innings. Carlos Hernandez, a scoreless inning. Joe Ross was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And Bryce Harper goes deep off of Joey Cantillo for his 7th home run of the season, as this game was 1-0 going into the top of the 8th inning. And then if you took the over 7.5, things got overwhelming. Tanner Bybee allows 1 run in 7 innings. It takes a loss. Tough luck loser there. And then Jacob Junis, he gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen. He allows a run. And then Cantillo gives up that home run. 5 runs in total while getting 4 outs out of the bullpen. So that was a little bit less than savory for them. So the Cleveland Guardians do fall, and so do the Milwaukee Brewers. As the Brewers, they lose by a count of 3-2 against the Tampa Bay Rays, as Travis Jankowski, he was able to get a walk-off hit to be able to end this one for the Tampa Bay Rays. As for the Brewers, Tobias Myers, not long for this game. He only goes 4 innings, allowing 2 runs, and the bullpen from there was actually pretty solid. And the Brewers have had a little bit of shakiness with regards to bullpen. Grant Anderson put the winning runner on base, and then Trevor McGill was unable to hold him on in the 9th inning. But he did have Tyler Alexander, Abner Uribe, Nick Mears, Jarrett Koenig, all end a scoreless inning. And for the Brewers, pair of solo home runs in this one. Jackson Trio off of Josh Bradley, 7th home run season, and Joey Ortiz, number 1 off of Bradley, as he gives up those 2 solo home runs over the course of 6 innings. But Edwin Uceta, Manuel Rodriguez, along with Pete Fairbanks, they're all able to turn a scoreless inning. The Sacramento A's have been playing a lot of homers thus far this season, and we saw another one happen on Saturday. As for the A's, 7-11. They're able to get the job done there. And for Sacramento, 13 overs, 7 unders at home thus far this season. As for New York, you did have a pair of Aaron Judge home runs, his league-leading 13th and 14th of the campaign. And you also did have a home run in this one, home run number 2 out of Oswald Peraza, as well as for Justin Turner. He gave up a pair of bombs, 5 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning to really skyrocket up his ERA. And then JP Sears gives up the other home run to Aaron Judge. Only allowed 1 run over the course of his 5 innings. You did have Mason Miller give up a run in 1 2/3 innings, but had the duo of Grant Holman along Tyler Ferguson, give you 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. And for the New York Yankees, Carlos Rodon, not necessarily the world's greatest start. 4 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, did allow a pair of home runs as you had Luis Urias get his 6th home run in the campaign, and Brett Rooker his 10th, but Shea Langoliers, Shea bangs his 8th home run of the season. That comes off of Fernando Cruz, who he gave up 3 runs in 2/3 inning. Tim Millen out of the bullpen, and then the duo of Tyler Madzik and Ian Hamilton in the 8th inning combined to allow 4 runs. So, yeah, the Yankees bullpen really let them down, and for the St. Louis Cardinals, they let down the Washington Nationals with their great pitching. 4-2 the finals. Andre 3000 Palante gives up a home run, 2 runs a total over the course of 7 1/3 innings as Dylan Cruz gets his 5th home run in the campaign, but Trevor Williams has had a bit of a shaky year. Another shaky start here, 4 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Did have from there Zach Brzezinski along with Cole Henry combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Jose Ferrer was able to end a scoreless inning as well, but Cardinals bullpen was able to get it done. Ryan Helsley, scoreless inning to be able to get the save, and Jojo Romero was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless as well for the Atlanta Braves. They've been a little bit more of a, shall we say, pitch-oriented team thus far this season as well, and they do find a way to be able to persevere. They get the job done. This by a count of 3-2 over the Pittsburgh Pirates, as the Pirates right now averaging the fewest runs per game of any team out there in baseball. And for Atlanta, A.J. Smith-Schwaber was able to give you a solid start, giving up 1 run in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Rafael Montero gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, allows a run, but Dylan Lee, Pierce Johnson, they both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Desbel Hernandez, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but did walk 4 along the way. But Scott Blewett, how about scoreless 10th and 11th innings, as this game does go to an 11th inning. Matt Olson, prior to that, goes deep off of Andrew Heaney for a 7th home run season. Heaney gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, but from there, Tanner Rainey, David Bennar, Dennis Santana, Caleb Ferguson, Chase Shogert all come in for an inning, and the lone run allowed was by Shogert, an unearned run in the 11th inning, as that was scored on a wild pitch. So that was a wild game, to say the least. Just getting started in terms of Diamondbacks versus Dodgers. Right now, that's a 1-0 game through the first 4 innings of that one, as Corbin Burns has been looking pretty rock solid. So we shall see what is going to be happening on that front. I don't need to reveal what's going to be happening here, as I'm right now doing this in the middle of the 3rd inning. The Padres are up by a count of 7-0, and the Colorado Rockies entered into this game 6-32. Like, I don't think that I need to foresee into my crystal ball to know that the Colorado Rockies are going to lose again. My gosh, this is just absolutely terrible, as they trotted out their Bradley Blaylock. As of right now, he's gotten through 3 innings, given up 7 runs, including a pair of bombs. Jake Cronenworth, welcome back. 3rd home run of the season. Gavin Sheets is 5th, and for the Colorado Rockies, an absolute skid mark on the underpants of baseball. For the Detroit Tigers, they fall to the Texas Rangers, as for the Rangers, they were able to put up a 10 spot in this one. They've been your best under team in all of baseball, entering the day on Saturday with just 12 overs of 27 unders, and Jacob deGrom did give up a pair of home runs in this one over the course of 5 innings, as going deep for the Tigers, Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter both get home runs number 9 of the campaign, but from their team is able to hold down the fort. Hobie Milner, Sean Armstrong, they combined for 3 innings, with Armstrong giving up a run along the way, and Luke Jackson, he was able to close things out. And for the Texas Rangers, very nice display of power here. Jock Peterson finally gets a home run, that off of Captain Jack Flaherty, his first of the campaign, and then you had a home run off the bat of Josh Smith, 4th home run of the season. Evan Carter, welcome back, 1st home run of the season. Those all come off of Jack Flaherty, and Flaherty also gave up a home run to Corey Seager, 5th home run of the season. Then Tyler Holton would also give it up to Seager, home run number 6 of the campaign. As for Flaherty, 5 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings, including 4 bombs. Holton gives up that home run in his inning work. You did have Sean Gunther give up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings, and you did have 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Jace Lee, before you did have 2 runs given up in 2 innings by John Brebbia as well. So 10-3, the Texas Rangers find a way to persevere. They get the job done out there. Right now in Marlins versus White Sox, that's a 1-1 game, so we'll see what happens there. But Edward Cabrera, actually a rock solid start for the Miami Marlins, as did Shane Smith for the White Sox. White Sox were able to get 6 scoreless innings out of Smith, and right now the bullpen is trying to blow it in for the Miami Marlins. Edward Cabrera gives up a home run in his 5+ innings of work, as he did allow one to Andrew Vaughn. That was home run number 5 of the campaign. Currently, the Chicago Cubs up by a count of 4-3 over the New York Mets, and for the Chicago Cubs, this has been one of your best over teams in all baseball this far this season, so we'll see how that scoring goes. 23 overs, 14 unders, and 2 pushes entering into the day on Saturday, with Miami actually being that top over team, 25 overs to 12 unders, but unless if we see something unforeseen in that White Sox game, that should be a game that trends under. Right now, you've got the Twins up on the San Francisco Giants by kind of 2-1 going into the 8th inning, as for Logan Webb, 2 runs allowed over his 7 innings of work, did allow a home run though, as going deep for Minnesota, Trevor Larnage, 6th home run in the campaign, and Joe Ryan allowed a home run in his 6+ innings of work, as he had allowed one to Eloy Ramos, his 6th home run of the campaign. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in baseball right now, oh, by the way, we have to mention that there was a touchdown and a field goal in the first inning by Cincinnati and not the Bengals. The Reds currently up 12-7 in the fifth inning against the Houston Astros. Both of these starters taken out of the game very early as Brady Singer, 7 outs, gives up 7 runs, including a home run. Going deep for the Houston Astros, it was Victor Caratini, his second home run on the campaign, and Lance McCullers Jr. He gave up 7 runs and he got 1 out. As for Cincinnati, jumped all on him as you had Ellie De La Cruz get his 6th home run on the campaign, and then Matt McClain, home run number 5 of the season that comes off of Logan Vanway, who gave you 2 innings. He gave up 5 runs, all of which were earned, and now the team are trying to hold down the fort from there. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, this is with quite a bit of action pending for Saturday, but we have seen a bit of an underwhelming season this year, though. The last 7 days have been a bit more overwhelming. 43 overs to 41 unders, and if you're looking at the favorites on the money line, they've been rock solid, 51-33 in the span, and overall for the season, hitting right around about 60.8%, 350 and 226 on the money line. Meanwhile, if you're looking at overs and unders, 287 unders, 269 overs, that's about 51.6% to the under this season. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on an abbreviated Saturday. Again, always do my hosting on VSiN for those Saturdays, which is why I did have to do this a little bit in advance, but that said, we've got ourselves a great chat coming up next with Johnny Venezia. Let's look at the awards market with him and so much more on the flip side right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast, and it's great to be joined by this man as we've got Johnny Venezia aboard. He does an absolutely tremendous job taking a look at all forms of baseball, both college and pro, as I know that he's doing great work over at Rotowire. Along with that, he is doing a great job with the Breaking Bet podcast as well, taking a look at both forms of baseball. I know that he's been doing a tremendous job with his NFL picks over the last few years as well. You're able to follow him on Twitter /X at @_, and then Johnny VTV all together. And Johnny, great to get you aboard. Thank you.
You too, my friend. Long time no see. How you doing?
I'm doing great. And Johnny, we last had you on right around about a month or so ago. We were just getting started up in terms of the start of the season. And just what have you noticed through the first 6 weeks of the season in baseball that has intrigued you? And maybe it's something that you've been able to profit off of.
Yeah, I think honestly, so far, we're seeing a lot of bad baseball from these teams that are kind of auto fades. Colorado really hasn't been anything special. I think, in all fairness, a lot of these favorites have been coming home, at least from what I've seen so far. You get the teams like the White Sox that are bottom of the barrel. Minnesota's been better as of late, but they've still been a little underwhelming. The Angels. So, like, you could basically count on some of these teams that have been bad to continue to be bad. There have been a couple of surprises, but otherwise, I think the favorites have been really good so far this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The favorites hit rate on the money line has been over 60%. So to your point, that has been very reliable. And just, until we see anything otherwise, we just continue to fade the Rockies on the run line, because I look at them going into the weekend. They were 6-31 and on pace for, I'm not even kidding when I say this, a 26-136 record. And I thought that the White Sox last year were the worst team I've ever seen. This Rockies team looks far worse than that White Sox team was a season ago.
Oh, yeah, I know. And listen, here's the thing. I've followed the Rockies for the draft these past couple of years. My boy Chase Dolly, he's going to be the ace. It's been touch and go for sure, but they have a lot of talent in that farm system. So Colorado's a team that beat on them while you can, because I think in 3 years, this is going to be a legitimate NL contender if they continue to draft correctly. They have a lot of horses in the barn waiting to be unleashed.
And what I think is so intriguing with the Rockies as well, man, they just need to try to get through that Chris Bryant contract, because he along with our good friend over there in Los Angeles, Anthony Rendon. They have been the two biggest wastes of money in all of sports that we've seen over the last few seasons. So that's been really big for them. And to your point, they have been able to draft really well. But also, just how do you take a look at pitching in general at Coors Field? Because you mentioned it with Chase Ollinger. He's a guy that I really like coming up, but he's had a little bit of a rough go of it. And I think that just having to pitch out there in Coors Field, the biggest thing that I worry about with him is just the confidence standpoint. Because when you're out there at Coors Field, you're going to be posting up higher ERAs and you're going to give up more home runs and more general contact than you are in other places.
Take it from me. I've been a day one incubator guy. Dolly is my day one incubator guy. I've been waiting for him to get to the major leagues for 3 years so I can bet him for NL Rookie of the Year and bet his strikeout overs. And there's been a lot of positive things, but not to any surprise, there's been some struggles. I think so far what I've noticed the most, and this goes back to Tennessee, it's not even a surprise. He throws way too many fastballs in counts where he should not be throwing fastballs. He'll have a guy 1-2, just throw a fastball to get to 2 strikes, and they'll go right there, center cut fastball when he can go with a curveball. More recently, his last couple starts, which he had a good start the week before last, 2 weeks ago against the Braves. It just wasn't good against the Tigers, and he started out good with his 2 shutout innings to begin, but truthfully, the command's been a little bit off for him because he's not been able to locate that curveball mainly, and it's kind of forced his hand to throw a lot more fastballs where batters are getting ready for it. But I think he's going to be fine, man. Like, this is a guy I do not have any concerns about, even at Coors Field. Nobody knows Dolly like I do. So I am very confident that he's going to be able to turn around, and hopefully we're going to see this guy continue to get better throughout the year. He's still probably recovering from the cracked fingernail issue that he picked up against the Braves.
Yeah, Ben, let's call it what it is. When it comes to the rest of the Colorado Rockies pitching staff, boy, do they need him to pick it up, because there's really not a lot of faith when you've got Antonio Sensatella as one of your starters right now for them. So certainly I do think that there's some upside there. As joining me on the show, we do have Johnny Venezia, does such tremendous work over at Rotowire, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And I think that it is so intriguing as well with the Colorado Rockies being out there in the NL West, because with the NL West, I think that they've got 4 of legitimately the top 7 or 8 teams in all of baseball right now. And I don't remember ever seeing a division just as dominant as it is, with having the Diamondbacks, the Giants, the LA Dodgers, and all these teams being able to beat up on each other, and just the way that that firepower has been able to come to the front.
Listen, the NL West, I think it's not really a surprise that they're good this year. I think there's been a lot of expectation this was going to be a very good division this year, minus Colorado. Arizona's a team I believed in a lot coming in the preseason. I have them as my preseason NL winner, and it's just early May, so I'm not ready to jump ship on any preseason predictions that I had, no matter how much of a long shot they look right now. San Diego, they've been playing really good ball this year, 10 games over 500. The Padres let me down, so they really broke my heart last year. I thought they were going to be in for regression because they lost some key pieces, but, they didn't lose too much. They kept most of their nucleus together. The Dylan Cease trade was potentially going to happen before the season started, which could have changed the course of how their season going. Obviously, the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and San Francisco is playing great ball, 10 games over 500 as well. So in all actuality, it wouldn't be a surprise to see the NL West send 3 teams to the playoffs this year. I think that's very possible. I'm telling you, though, everybody that's sleeping on Arizona, don't. They're going to get red hot at some point in the middle of the year. That's going to catapult them into that conversation to be the first wild card team. And all you got to do is get in, Greg.
Yeah, we saw that with this very team a few seasons ago as well. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they had a rock-solid year last year, and that was with Corbin Carroll not playing well. I'm still fully convinced that Corbin Carroll was playing through injury last season, because we've seen a different form of him this season, but that's a team very much to look at. As Johnny Venezia does such great work here at Rotowire, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And something else that you do such a great job of with baseball is looking at these awards markets. And I know you, much like myself, have been a stan of Hunter Green. It was very unfortunate to see him go off the mound a few days ago, but how do you take a look at the Cy Young races in both the National League and the American League? Because as we know, we see some wild and insane numbers. We see a bunch of crazy movement, where this time of year is typically when you do want to be diving in on those guys. That might be a little bit north of 20-1. And I do want to get your overall takeaways here, because I do think that there could be some great value on the board.
Oh, absolutely. So it's funny, right? Because what I was talking about in the preseason on my Rotowire articles, I love Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens is a guy that I watched extensively in college, and really had a lot of affinity for. I had him at 45-1 preseason last year before he was even called up to win the NL Rookie of the Year. He was an ATM at LSU where I bet every Friday night. It was free money, G-Unit. But the truth is everybody is expecting like the encore, and it's totally fair. It's totally warranted. But, there's going to probably be some positive regression. I mean, Skeens has been great, but he hasn't been nearly as dominant as what we saw last year, to start at least. The swing and miss in terms of the strikeouts has been a little underwhelming compared to last year. But listen, it's nitpicking because he's firmly a Cy Young contender, no question about it. But while everybody was clamoring over the guy who was looking to win a Cy Young in his first full season after making just 21, 22 starts, I went with the other guy that a lot of people were forgetting about in Spencer Schwellenbach when he was 35-1. And Schwellenbach was one of the big favorites. To be fair, he got roughed up against the Dodgers, which a lot of pitchers do, and he got roughed up against Toronto. So those 12 earned runs have accounted for 12 of his 19 earned runs given up on the year. But I think Schwellenbach is going to be a contender this year. He's 36-1 after a couple bad outings that kind of ballooned his price. But I would be looking heavily on Schwellenbach. This is a really good pitcher. He has pristine command. He's not a huge strikeout guy, but, if he throws 175, 180 innings, he can be anywhere from 170 to 190 Ks. I think we're going to see a big second half from him. Other than 2 bad outings, he's looked really good this year. So when you look at the overall numbers on paper, it doesn't truly reflect how good he's been. So Spencer Schwellenbach is somebody I would not be sleeping on. I think, realistically, Hunter Green with the injury, it's going to be tough for him to win. Yamamoto, the 370 I'm not feeling right now. Honestly, I don't buy Kodai Senga. I don't know if I buy Michael King. I don't buy Logan Webb. Zach Wheeler's always a stud, but 9-1 is something I would consider. Freddie Peralta, no way. Luzardo, it was actually preseason strikeout leader, long shot that I took a shot on. But overall, man, I think Schwellenbach's the play right now at 36-1.
Yep, you're able to get a really good number there. And is that a team in the Atlanta Braves that you just want to bank on in general? Because we know that they had to start out the season in that West Coast road trip against the Padres and the LA Dodgers when they were at full force. And for the Atlanta Braves, they've worked their way back after what was a very rough start to the season.
Yeah, exactly. Atlanta's an interesting proposition. Spencer Strider goes back on the injured list, and Ronald Acuna should be coming back sometime soon. But I wasn't really a huge believer in the Braves. I mean, I thought playoffs were definitely a possibility, but I didn't really see them as an NL contender. I thought really it was Philadelphia's division to lose, and the Mets were going to regress for the second year in a row. They're getting guys that are like in the twilight of their career or who are never really anything special as pitchers coming in and just having career years. Pitching coach situation's been pretty good for them. A team that I was actually interested in was the Nationals if they were going to go out and get a pitcher, but overall, man, I really thought Philadelphia had this division over Atlanta just because there's a lot more stability. There's a lot more of a high floor, and they're not missing their 2 best players in Strider and Acuna.
Yep, they certainly do have quite a bit of upside there, and I do think that entire NL East is going to be a lot of fun to take a look at, to say the least, as Johnny Venezia does great work over at Rotowire, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and certainly we just talked about the Atlanta Braves as perhaps a team to be able to bank on. Are there a few other teams that you take a look at that you either expect some progression or some regression with them? Because we're getting closer to Memorial Day, and when I think that when you get to Memorial Day, you're able to really get to know these teams. You finally have that sort of data set that you need to feel relatively good about what we've seen towards the early part of the season. Any teams that you take a look at right now that you think might be either a little bit overvalued or a bit undervalued?
Let's look at a team that I picked to win the AL preseason, Texas Rangers, man. The Rangers were really hot to start the gate, and they've really hit the skids. Pitching, I think, has been good enough, but it's really been the offense. The offense was supposed to be the strength of this team, and honestly, it's really Wyatt Langford that's done most of the damage this year. It's been a tough year for Semien. Cedar's been in and out of the lineup. Josh Young just returned, so he hopefully can be a big factor. But the Texas offense has too much firepower, too much depth to be held down for this long. I mean, it's a slow start out of the gate for them, but I believe that they're going to pick it up. I mean, as long as they can kind of hang around and stay in position within striking distance to make a big run in the second half of the year, I think they'll be fine. Everybody likes to, in a small sample size, rush to judgment and overreact. And clearly the Rangers offense hasn't been up to snuff, but I think that's going to get corrected. And once that happens, man, their pitching looks good. I think they'll go out and get another arm at the deadline. I think they're going to be ready to make that run back to the World Series.
I think that's going to be massive for them, and just for the Texas Rangers, being able to get a little bit more out of that offense is going to be massive because they've actually had some really good pitching thus far this season. And anything else that you're taking a look at in baseball right now, whether you've been betting it game to game, whether you bet it in the futures market, what have you, just anything that's really catching your fancy as we sit here coming up on the middle of May.
Yeah, the Rookie of the Year races is, I said
one of your favorites. Yeah.
I said coming into the year, this is going to be the toughest Rookie of the Year races in maybe the last decade. It's loaded. There are so many players you can pick from, and some of them aren't even up. Some of them are just having those early career struggles, which does happen, but it's a long year, man. I mean, I want to talk about a couple guys that I really liked coming in. Cam Smith from the Astros he was like 11-1 at one point. He's 50-1 now. He's not playing every day in the last week, but I think Cam Smith's gonna get it together. You know, he's playing college baseball this time last year. He was gearing up for a regional this time last year. He's a very talented hitter, and I believe he's gonna end up having a pretty good season. Nick Kurtz, same story as Cam, playing college baseball last year. Ultra talented hitter, high floor player, good in the field. You know, he's only in his, I think, third week in the MLB. In terms of the NL, again, like the NL is even more open than the AL is. Cade Horton's interesting for the Cubs. Cade Horton, here's a who, is one of my incubator guys. He was a big deal for me with Oklahoma in the College World Series in 2022. Almost brought that home for me. And I've been waiting for a long time for Cade Horton to get that call, man. I'm so happy that he's here. 35-1. It was about 40-1, 50-1. I would say a couple days ago, 3 days ago. I'm interested to see if Horton can play catch up. So obviously we saw Skeens get called up in like the middle of May last year and ended up doing enough to win it, which was like almost an outlier season for a rookie. Not almost, was an outlier season for a rookie. Cade Horton, I wonder, even in a year like this where there's not really too many people that are separating. I mean, Augustine Ramirez is off to a hot start, but you'd expect him to regress. Roki Sasaki hasn't been special. Dylan Cruz really hasn't been special. So there's a lot of movement that can happen. So I wonder if Cade Horton has that really good start. Can he make the jump to be NL Rookie of the Year contender this year? 35-1 is a good price to take a nibble on. The timeline is the only thing that kind of gives me a little bit of unease, but rest assured, man, this kid is ultra, ultra talented.
Yep, he certainly is, and it's going to be really interesting to take a look at this Rookie of the Year race because there's so many fascinating candidates out there. Some have started hot and are starting to cool down, and others started out cold and are starting to heat up as well. But a man that always stays hot is you, Johnny. I know that you're in peak form right now because we're getting into the meat of the baseball season where we get these important games, and you do a great job on that front. You do a great job on the MLB front and so much more. So love the good people at home. Know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Big dog, we're in full college baseball swing right now. This is the second to last weekend in the regular season, so we're absolutely ripping right now. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at _JohnnyVTV. You can catch all of my articles, my college baseball, MLB, NFL, fantasy on rotowire.com, putting out some great stuff there. And of course, my podcast, baby, Breaking Bet, every week, typically every Thursday night. We're talking so much college baseball right now that I'm in my glory, man. So make sure you tune in, get some winners, and have some fun.
Absolutely. And we always have fun when Johnny's aboard because he does such a tremendous job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. So big thanks to Johnny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is a Mother's Day Sunday, so we give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back back your lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Johnny Venezia. Does such great work taking a look at this wonderful game of baseball that we all know and love. Every single time he joins me, he lends amazing insights. He did so once again today, so big thanks to Johnny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 951, 952 on the betting board, the Chicago Cubs, they hit the road they're facing off against the New York Mets as Griffin Canning is on the bump for the Mets. Matthew Boyd goes for the Cubs, and the Cubs do find themselves as underdogs between plus 110 to a plus 115, and between minus 124 to minus 130 is that number on the Mets. 8.5 is the total. Unders between minus 115 to minus 120, and the overs between even and minus 105. And when it comes to the Mets, I did set them at a minus 133. I'm going to be willing to lay the minus 130 with them. It's just been remarkable what we've seen out of Griffin Canning this year, a guy that was essentially left for dead with the LA Angels. And man, when guys leave the LA Angels, typically they get a whole heck of a lot better, and he has been no exception. Man, that has been able to post up a 250 ERA, 338 fielding independent. A little bit concerning that you do have 3.8 walks per 9 innings, but he's keeping the ball in the yard, has allowed 3 home runs through 7 starts. He's getting north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that ability that he showed to be able to get the Ks towards the beginning part of his career, that is back. And for Matthew Boyd, he is a guy that is very similar in that Matthew Boyd right now giving out about 3 walks per 9 innings, seeing a little bit of a drop in his swing and miss stuff from past years, about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's posting up 275 ERA, but that 377 fielding independent, a little bit concerning. And what else is concerning for the Chicago Cubs is the bullpen. That is really the main kryptonite of this team entering into Saturday, 21st in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Porter Hodge has not been the guy that he was a season ago. You've had quite a few guys hit the injured list as well, so that's been very much less than savory for them. And when it comes to this Chicago Cubs bullpen, Ryan Presley just not a guy that I've necessarily been too bullish on, to say the least. And for the New York Mets, they didn't necessarily get the start that they were looking for out of Tyler McGill yesterday, so that means that they had to go into their bullpen a little bit, but this has been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA, mainly because of the long guys. Oscar Zobin, Max Chronic, these guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jose Buto more around about a 3.27 ERA. Edwin Diaz has been a little bit of a roll of the dice along with Ryan Stanek, but all in all, I like the way that these guys are performing. And for the New York Mets, being able to have Juan Soto hit 4+ home runs over the last 2 weeks, that's been big, as he's always able to move the line. Sometimes power can be a little bit hit or miss, and now it's back to being a hit for Pete Alonso. He has been incredible all season long, north of a 425 on base, 9 home runs entering into yesterday. You've had a little bit of a rough go of it for Brett Baty along with Mark Vientos, but they seem to be finding it as well. And Luan Acuna, not going to give you power, but doing a great job moving the line when you have Francisco Lindor up at the top of the lineup. That's fearsome. And Pete Crow Armstrong, 9 home runs this season. He, Kyle Tucker, and C.A. Suzuki all entered into Saturday with at least 9 home runs apiece, with all 3 of these guys hitting at least 250. That provides for a fearsome lineup, and that's why the Cubs, number 1 in all baseball in terms of runs per game going into yesterday. Even Miguel Amaya at the bottom of the fold has been able to give you some good at-bats. You've got Michael Busch, who's been able to do a nice job there, and after a rough start to the season, Dansby Swanson seems to be finding it as well. So this is a very interesting circumstance because New York is a little bit more of a pitcher's ballpark. I did set my total at an 8.4 here, despite the fact that you've got 2 very high-powered offenses. At the 8.5, I'm going to be looking at the under, and for the Mets, willing to lay that minus 125, minus 130 money line. 953, 954 on the betting board. The Washington Nationals do play us to the St. Louis Cardinals. Miles Mikolas goes for the Cards. Mackenzie Gore is on the bump for Washington. Minus 115 to minus 120 is that number on the Nats. And for St. Louis, you're going to be finding them between even money and plus 105. 8.5 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110. And when it comes to Miles Mikolas, just not a guy that I want to back. I set the Cardinals at a plus 146, so I'm going to be willing to back the money line of the Washington Nationals. As for Mr. Miles Mikolas, he always does a relatively okay job of keeping the ball in the yard, actually, but he just gives up a lot of general contact in general from what I've been seeing. As for Miles Mikolas, thus far this season, he owns a 4.76 ERA, and he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, but still, he is getting just 4.8 strikeouts, a 3.2 walk walks per 9 innings. He's backed up by a Cardinals bullpen that has been a little bit shaky with a 4.24 ERA, even with Kyle Leahy being rock solid and Ryan Helsley, even though he's given up a few runs this year, being one of the better closers in my opinion in all of baseball. You've got a lot of guys that have been not great, to say the least. You've got likes of a Jojo Romero, Ryan Fernandez that have just lived up to the billing, and Phil Matone is starting to regress a little bit. Now, for the Washington Nationals, my goodness, this is not great, to say the least. They're dead last in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA, hovering right around 7, other than Kyle Finnegan, along Jackson Rutledge, everyone in this bullpen, other than Andrew Chafin, who's thrown for less than 5 innings thus far this season, does have north of a 4 ERA, so you just don't have anything when it comes to guys like Eduardo Salazar and company, but James Wood supplying 10 home runs, being able to give you north of a 350 on base. He's been able to do a good job for this team. You've been able to get quite a bit out of Nathaniel Lowe as well. He's been able to give you some solid power. He's doing a good job of being able to find a way on base. Additionally, with this Washington Nationals lineup, Keibert Ruiz has been able to do a nice job of moving the line. Do you need to get a little bit more out of the likes of Josh Bell, Dylan Cruz? Both of these guys entered into Saturday hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200, but that said, you still have quite a few guys that are starting to step it up a little bit more there. And then on the flip side, you've got a St. Louis Cardinals team that doesn't necessarily have a ton of power. You do have guys that are doing a solid job of being able to reach base, as Brendan Donovan enters into yesterday, hitting for about a 380 in terms of his on base, but nobody with north of 5 home runs on the team. Wilson Contreras, Lars Nootbaar, 5 home runs apiece, and for Contreras, after a very rough start to the season, now giving you about a 340 or so on base. For Nootbaar, more around about a 365 on base going into yesterday, but you could use a little bit more pop, especially with having Jordan Walker hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Victor Scott has been able to give you a 360 on base. That's been nice, and Nolan Arenado has seen a crater with regards to his power, so he'll give you about a 350 on base. So it does lead to an interesting circumstance, but I do think that with Mackenzie Gore, he just flat out blows these guys away. 3.33 ERA with a 2-3 record does not do him justice. 2.76 fielding independent, 13.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings. Does a good job of being able to keep the ball in the yard, and I do think that he goes out there, gets the job done here. Now, did somebody tell it an 8.6 because I do think that the Nationals are going to be able to get to the St. Louis Cardinals, and that bullpen is testy. So I do like the over in this spot, but also do like that Washington Nationals money line. 955, 956 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves hit the road. They're facing off against the Pittsburgh Pirates, as Carmen Mlodzinski is going to be going for the Buccos, and Chris Sale is on the bump for Atlanta. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. Between minus 185 to minus 192. That number on Atlanta between plus 160 to plus 171. That number on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Pittsburgh Pirates if we can get to a plus 172 or higher. And once we get the dime lines out, we should. And this actually opened up at a plus 185 on the Pittsburgh Pirates. So we are going to be able to get in on the Pittsburgh Pirates in some form or capacity. And for Mlodzinski, it's been a rough start to the season for him. He's got north of a 6 ERA. He's making the transition from being a bullpen piece to being a starter, but there is some signs of positivity. He's been able to keep the ball in the yard. He's given up 4 home runs across his 7 starts, albeit his 7 starts have not necessarily yielded a lot of length. He has went 5 innings or fewer in every one of them, but has now allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 3 starts as well. He's been able to do a solid job of being able to keep things out in front of him with now less than 3 walks per 9 innings, so he's been able to hone in on the command. And for Chris Sale, I do think that he's going to be able to round into form as well. As for Sale, been a little bit of a shaky start to the season for him as well, with a 4.07 ERA, but that fielding independence is a 3.06. He's still getting 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, only allowing about a home run per 9 as well. And after a very rough start to the season, 4 runs allowed over the course of his last 4 starts, actually 5 runs allowed over the course of his last 4 starts, but still very much doing a much better job here than he was at the beginning part of the season. And for the Atlanta Braves, I still do have a few question marks with regards to this lineup. Now, you're going to have a pair of bullpens that are a little bit more tired than normal, because yesterday's game, that did go to 11 innings, so they did have to trot out there quite a few bullpen pieces. But for the Atlanta Braves, Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson are both hitting below 225, along with Sean Murphy. Now, Murphy has been able to give you a home run every about 10 to 11 at bats, so he's been rock solid there, and Olson is giving you closer about a 350 on base, but still would like to see a little bit more there. Marcell Ozuna has been able to do a pretty solid job of getting on base north of 400 on base, but his power numbers from last season are a little bit down. Michael Harris has just not been able to find it recently. I do think that the likes of Eli White, Nick Allen are going to begin to regress just a little bit for the team, though. Did like that Alex Verdugo came back, and he's immediately ahead Austin Riley, 8+ home runs, 330 on base. He's been rock solid. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this team is right at the bottom of the National League in terms of runs per game, with about 3.3 runs per contest. Oneil Cruz has been able to give you 8+ home runs at a 370 on base, but who else is going to be able to step up? You've got so many of these guys that just have not given you anything whatsoever. Jared Trollo, Lovar Piguero, Tommy Pham. These guys hitting below the middle side of 200. Henry Davis has not panned out as the number one overall pick thus far quite a few years ago. You've got someone like an Alexander Canario who's been doing a big giant nothing burger as well. Brian Hayes has never really come into his own. Andrew McCutcheon's okay at being able to move line, but Brian Reynolds has been rough as well. And this is a Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen that is not the worst in the league, but certainly you have your, shall we say, shakiness with David Benhar, who's been posting up about a 5 ERA this season. But Dennis Santana's actually been halfway decent for them thus far this season. Caleb Ferguson, right around about a 4 ERA. Colin Olderman, well, he's not been living up to that name to say the least, but for the Atlanta Braves without AJ Minter in that bullpen this season has been a little bit more shaky for them. You do have a guy in Desbel Hernandez who's been able to do a solid job along with Dylan Lee. They've been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA. Rossio Iglesias has nasty stuff, but man, he has allowed quite a few runs this season. He's posting up an ERA hovering right around 5, and for both of these teams, again, because the game went 11 innings yesterday, they did have to expend quite a bit of their bullpen pieces. But that said, I do think that in this circumstance, you get a good start out of both of these guys. I do think that Chris Sale is going to be able to give you some good length, but again, getting plus 172 or higher with the Pirates, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that money line, and I'm in on the under semi-total at 7.7, 957, 958 on the betting board. The Slam Diego Padres, they hit the road, they're facing off against the Colorado Rockies. Esteban Marquez is on the bump for the Rockies, and Nick Pivetta is on the bump for the Padres. Padres between minus 225 to minus 240 favorites. You're going to be getting between plus 195 to plus 205 on the Colorado Rockies. 11.5 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. And if you're looking to lay a run half right now with the Padres, as I record this, most places have the run line off the board. Right now, I'm seeing a minus 142 over on FanDuel, and I'd be more than willing to lay a minus 142 run line with the Padres. I'm willing to go up to a minus 157. This Rockies team is a skid mark on the underpants of baseball right now. They play half their games at Coors Field, and they're averaging less than 3.4 runs per game. My gosh. And they're only averaging like 4.3, 4.4 runs per game at home. It's like, what are we doing here? You've got Jordan Beck, who's been able to give you 6 home runs. He's actually been able to move the line a little bit for this team. Hunter Goodman has 5 home runs, but actually, ironically, 4 of those have come on the road. So I find that to be a little bit hilarious. But Ryan McMahon is sitting below the nose line 200. Chris Bryant is back out of the fold after he was one of the worst signings in the history of Major League Baseball. I don't know what's happened to that guy, but man, that's not great to say the least. And you just go down the list and it's a whole bunch of bad for this Colorado Rockies team. Like right now, you're getting someone in Mr. Adel Amador who's hitting a $180 at bats right now, and that's not good to say the least. And meanwhile, for the San Diego Padres, they've got Jackson Merrill coming off the injured list. That makes their lineup all the more fortified. Fernando Tatis Jr. has been well above 300. He's been able to supply you with 8 home runs this season. And Luis Arias has actually given you a little bit of power this year, doing a good job moving the line. And then Manny Machado, even though the power's not been there, he's been hitting above 300. They get back Jason Hayward, who's not necessarily the world's greatest piece, but that said, this is a San Diego Padres team that is also in the top 6 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Have a lot of guys that are able to throw multiple innings for you, like Yuki Matsui, Adrian Morejon have been really good in that bullpen. Jason Adam, Robert Suarez are both able to supply a sub 250 ERA. They have over the last 2 seasons. Jeremiah Estrada has been rock solid. And for the Colorado Rockies, Jimmy Urquhart actually has not been the world's worst in the bullpen. Seth Alverson has given you a few okay innings, but this is a team that entered into yesterday 6-32 for a reason. And Urmar Marquez, 9.90 ERA. Now, he does have a 504 fielding dependent, so there should be a little bit of positivity for Urmar Marquez, but that's more or less because it can't really get a whole heck of a lot worse for Urmar Marquez right now. And he was a guy that a few seasons ago was actually pretty trustworthy. They should have traded him away, but that said, we have seen a complete departure in terms of that swing and miss stuff, only getting about 5.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been giving out a little bit north of 3 walks per 9 as well. I do think that he gets banged around like a piñata, but that said, for Nick Pivetta, I actually think that he's going to be able to help you hold the under here, as he's been posting up a sub 2.2 ERA. Fielding independent, more around about a 290. He's given up 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, north of 9.5 punch outs per 9. He just needed to get out of Boston. That ballpark did not suit him well, and he has been really thriving with the Padres. So did semi total 10.3. Flat out don't think that the Rockies did their part with this total. So in on the under, and that Padres run line up to a minus 157, 959, 960 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks play host to the LA Dodgers. Tony Gonsolin is on the bump with the Dodgers, and Zach Gallen looks to fill it up for Arizona. Arizona is a slight underdog between even money and minus 105, between minus 107 to minus 115. That number on Los Angeles, 9.5 is your total. Under is minus 120, over is even, and for the Diamondbacks, I did make them the minus 112 favorite. I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line. For Gonsolin, not great, not terrible in his first 2 starts of the season. He has allowed 5 runs across 11 innings. So, you're going to take that if you're an LA Dodgers fan. That said, you do take a look at what he did in the 2023 season because he missed all of 2024. 4.98 ERA, 1.7 home runs, and 3.5 walks per 9 innings. So you have to have your massive trepidations with him moving forward. And for Zach Gallen, he's always been a better home pitcher than a road pitcher. For his career, 3.10 home ERA with 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, a little bit north of a home run allowed per 9 innings, and a 3.61 ERA when he is away from home. So that's something that you do want to be very mindful of. Now for the LA Dodgers, they do have a little bit of better bullpen than the Arizona Diamondbacks, especially with the Diamondbacks, with the injury to AJ Puck. But I like what Jalen Beeks has been able to bring to the table for this bullpen. You do have Ryan Thompson, who's posting up right around about a 5 ERA for Arizona, but I do think that he's going to round into form a little bit more. Justin Martinez, being a bit banged up, has been hurting them as well, so that bullpen has been dealing with quite a few injuries, but they're still doing a nice job of mixing and matching, as you've been able to have Shelby Miller be able to give you some good innings when he's been out there as well. And I do think that Juan Murillo has a chance to be an upside guy. And for Arizona, if they entered into Saturday, number one in the big leagues in terms of runs per game since the beginning of the 2024 campaign. And Corbin Carroll in 2024 wasn't even good. Now he's giving you a 350 on base, 11 plus home runs, and Eugenio Suarez has been able to do a nice job of being able to supply 11 bombs, albeit he's not hitting for a lot of average, and Lourdes Gurriel has seen his average very much dip, but that's why you've got Josh Naylor giving you north of a 360 on base, Geraldo Perdomo has been able to give you north of a 400 on base, Pavin Smith has found a way to be able to move the line, and now you're getting Del Marte of the Marte Parte back in the fold as well, so that's great. And for the LA Dodgers, obviously, you've got a lineup that is one of the Death Stars of all of baseball with Shohei Ohtani being able to give you a double-figure amount of homers, him being able to do such a good job of being able to find a way on base, and Teoscar Hernandez is sitting above 300. He's been able to have some nice power numbers to begin the season as well. Now, you've had a few inconsistencies. Max Muncy is starting to find it a little bit, but he, along with Michael Conforto, hitting below the Mendoza line of 200 to start the season has been rough. Now, Kike Hernandez, after he was not hitting for any average to begin the season, he's starting to round into form. 6 home runs in his first 79 at-bats. You do like to see that. Will Smith is able to get jiggy with it. He's hitting above 300. Andy Pages, under the radar, has been able to do a nice job of getting on base. He's starting to be able to give you a little bit of power as well. And for the LA Dodgers, they've dealt with their own bullpen issues this season with Bruce Gradrell, Michael Kopech, Kevin Phillips, so many guys being on the injury list. Now, you've got a nice big three for this team as Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, Alex Vesia. These guys have been able to give you a sub-345 ERA. Anthony Banda, he's a guy that's able to give you some nice production as well, but can sometimes be a little bit intermittent himself. So you've got yourself a very interesting circumstance in this one where I do think that runs are going to be quite plentiful. Zach Gallen has actually not been himself at home this far this season, but I also have no faith whatsoever in Tony Gonsolin. So I did set my total at a 9.6. Right now, seeing the 9.5 that we've got, I'm in on the over, and with the Diamondbacks willing to go up to a minus 112 on that money line. 961, 962 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers hit the road. They're facing off against the Detroit Tigers. Reese Olson is on the bump for the Tigres, and you got Mr. Nathan Eovaldi who's on the bump for the Texas Rangers. And with the Rangers, you're going to be getting them as a slight underdog of anywhere between plus 102 to a minus 102, and between minus 109 to minus 118 is that number on Detroit. 7 to 7.5 is the total on the 7. Over is minus 120. The under is even on the 7.5. Under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. And for the Rangers, I did set them at a plus 125, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with Detroit. Reese Olson has been pretty spectacular this far this season, posting up an ERA right around about a 3.02. That's backed up by a 2.92 fielding dependent. And for Reese Olson, dating back to the beginning of the 2024 season, he's only been giving up about 0.6 to 0.5 home runs per 9 innings. Now, the Rangers lineup should be a little bit better than what we've seen thus far this season. They entered into Saturday 29th in the league with 3.2 runs per contest. Evan Carter's out coming off the injured list. I remember what he was able to do in 2023. Corey Seager, he was banged up. You're getting him back as well, so it should be able to help them out a little bit. But man, you've had some just miserable bats in this lineup. They were able to bust out a little bit more yesterday, to their credit, but I mean, you've got guys like Marcus Semien, Jock Peterson, Jake Berger, all hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Adolis Garcia really just does not hit for any sort of average whatsoever. Now, Josh Smith has been great, about a 390 on base. He went deep yesterday, while Langford has been able to do a nice job of giving you about a 350 on base, 6+ bombs out of him thus far this season. But I mean, it is a Detroit Tigers team that may have been one of the better lineups in all baseball. Number 2 in the American League in terms of runs per game. Cole Keith is starting to be able to round into form a little bit. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter both got got home run number 9 of the season yesterday. Both of these guys are doing a solid job of hitting for average. Carpenter really doesn't draw a lot of walks, but you got Gleyber Torres who's able to give you about a 350 on base. Spencer Torkelson, 8+ bombs. He's been able to give you a 350 on base as well. And for the Tigers, this is the far more dominant bullpen of the two, as since the All-Star break of the 2024 campaign, the Detroit Tigers actually have the top bullpen in terms of ERA. Brian Herter is always able to give you multiple innings, but then you're able to mix and match with so many guys that are give you a sub-3 ERA, like John Brebbia, Tommy Kahnle, Will Vest, Tyler Holton. All these guys have been very rock solid. And for the Texas Rangers, this is more of a league average bullpen in terms of ERA. Caleb Bouchley, the pride of Hortonville, Wisconsin, is actually a pretty solid long guy. And then you've got Jacob Webb, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner. These three guys have been very intriguing. Webb has been a bit shaky with north of a 4 ERA, but Milner and Armstrong have been good. Luke Jackson is not great at the closer spot, but you've actually gotten some good innings out of Robert Garcia as well. So it does lead to an interesting circumstance, because you do have Nathan Eovaldi giving up 0.6 home runs and 0.7 walks per 9 innings, posting up a sub-250 ERA. Always feels like Nathan Eovaldi starts off the year really strong, and then he just wears down a little bit as the season goes along, so you always want to be noting that. But he does have to face off against this fearsome Tigers lineup that I do think is going to be able to get to him, so I did set my total at 7.9, being able to get the 7 that we're getting. I'm in on the over, and for the Tigers, willing to lay up to a minus 125 on that money line. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals play host to the Boston Red Sox, as Lucas Giolito is on the bump for the Sox, and Seth Lugo goes for the Royals, and the Royals do find themselves as minus 123 to minus 130 favorites, and we're between plus 110 to plus 115 is that number on Boston. 8.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and for the Royals, I did set them at a minus 139. I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line. Seth Lugo has been able to do a really good job of just being able to keep the ball in the yard over the last 2 seasons since the beginning of the 2024 campaign, less than 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Now, if you take a look at the ERA versus fielding independent, it is a little bit of a outlier, as right now he's posting up an ERA of a 284, fielding independent more around about a 412, as he has been giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings this year, and he's up to about 2.5 walks per 9 innings as well. But what I love about the Royals is the fact that this bullpen has really been able to sling it, as Daniel Lynch has become a relatively nice long guy for the team. Lucas Erceg, Carlos Estevez, both with a sub-3 ERA in the 8th and 9th inning, have been rock solid. Royals enter into the day on Saturday, number 4 in the big leagues with a 2.76 ERA. And for the Boston Red Sox, it's a bullpen that honestly has been a little bit better recently ever since they got Liam Hendricks back. He's been able to supply some good innings. Brandon Bernardino has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. I just still don't have any faith in Aroldis Chapman, though. And then Greg Weiser can always be a little bit of a roll of the dice as well. So it's a bullpen that I'm a little bit jaded on. 13th of the big leagues in terms of ERA entering into yesterday. And for the Boston Red Sox, this has been a lineup that has been a little bit more hit or miss as well, because now you're without Tristan Casas for the rest of the season. Rafael Devers refuses to play the field, but you know what? He has been able to supply you with north of a 350 on base after a rough start to the season. He's been able to round into form, and then you've got a few guys that are able to do a nice job of being able to move line, like an Alex Bregman, who's been able to give you 8+ home runs. He's been supplying north of a 375 on base, and Christian Campbell, as a rookie, he's really been able to step up north of a 375 on base. Some solid power numbers. Trevor Story, only about a 288 on base, so he's been regressing a little bit over the last few weeks. Adane Rafaela is hitting for less than a 300 on base with 2 home runs, so you need to get a little bit more there. And when it comes to Kansas City Royals, this has been a bottom 6 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. MJ Melendez was so bad that they had to send him down to the minor league level, but it does feel like they're starting to get a little bit more out of this offense now, with Miguel Garcia and Bobby Witt Jr. both hitting above a 385 in terms of that on-base percentage. Vinny Pasquantino's up to 6 home runs after a rough start to the season. He seems to be rounding into form, though Salvador Perez just does not look like himself. 2 home runs and a 283 on base to begin the season. That's a little bit less than savory. Have someone like Hunter Renfroe's giving you nothing all season long. Drew Waters, though, has been able to about a 280 when they've had Kevon Biggio out there, as it's been hit or miss as to when he's been out there from game to game. He hasn't given you too much either, but that said, this is a Kansas City Royals team that I do think that their pitching is going to be able to lead them to victory, and got a guy in Lucas Giolito that I have no faith in whatsoever. Like, in Lucas Giolito, 9 runs allowed in 9 2/3 innings to begin the season. Mr. Lucas Giolito, during the 2023 season, last we saw him, 488 ERA, north of 5 fielding independent, was giving up north of a home run and a half per 9 innings. Just a guy that at this point, I think that he's just flat out washed. I think that the Royals get to him pretty good, but the Royals pitching, I think, helps you out with the under, so I tell it at 8.2, so at an 8.5 and on the under, and with the Royals, we're willing to lay the money line up to a minus 139 with them. 965, 966 on the betting board. It is the New York Yankees there on the road against the Athletics. We do know that Luis Severino is on the bump for the Athletics, and right now for the New York Yankees, it's all to be determined, so this game is presently off the board. board with the Yankees. I was seeing Clark Schmidt a little bit before, and when it was Clark Schmidt versus Luis Severino, I did set the Yankees at a minus 114 on the money line, and I set a total to where a 10 or less on the over 10.5 or higher, the under. But if you don't get Clark Schmidt, this is probably going to be a relatively pick'em game here, I would think, because I've got Clark Schmidt as pretty much a league average pitcher. He's giving you about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, posts up an ERA of 4. He's nothing great, he's nothing terrible. If you don't get Schmidt, probably going to be a little bit of a downgrade, but it's not like you're going to be getting someone as bad as Will Warren. So you're probably somewhere between A and B there. You might be getting a bullpen game, and for the Yankees, that bullpen has been, shall we say, a little bit suspect. We saw what happened yesterday for that bullpen, and Devin Williams has been a disaster for them. Luke Weaver has been really, really good. And I like what Ian Hamilton has been able to bring to the table as well. I know that there have been some guys that have had some fall-offs with this New York Yankees bullpen as well. Fernando Cruz has honestly been relatively solid this season, and for the A's, this is a bullpen that you really don't want to be trusting in a ton. And for Luis Severino, he has got some massive home and road splits thus far this season, as Sacramento is just a completely different ball of wax for a lot of these pitchers because they're out there in the PCL, and the PCL just generates runs upon runs. That thin air out there in Sacramento, if you're allowing hard contact, it's not going to treat you well. As a matter of fact, for Luis Severino, a 0.95 road ERA in his 3 starts away from Sacramento. In his 5 starts in Sacramento, a 5.28 ERA thus far this season. So yeah, that's not great to say the least. But that said, this is an A's bullpen that in general has been able to give you a little bit more recently. Mason Miller had a little bit of shakiness over the last 2 or so weeks, but he seems to be rounding into form. Michael Ohtans being on the injured list has been hurting this team a little bit, but still you've been able to have someone like a Justin Cerner really step up in this bullpen as he's been able to supply you with a sub 250 ERA. Tyler Ferguson, Grant Holman, these guys have been able to do a nice job of holding it down as well, though TJ McFarland, Hogan Harris, these guys have been less than savory. And for the Athletics, this is a lineup that you're able to trust in with the power numbers. Now, Tyler Soderstrom, he hasn't hit a home run in 3 weeks, but he's still at 9 bombs, 350 on base. Brent Rooker's up to 10 home runs. His batting average to begin the season was rough. He's starting to be able to pick it up now, and we got Miguel Andujar hitting above 3. Jacob Olsen, who doesn't draw any walks whatsoever. How about him hitting north of a 350 as far this season? Lawrence Butler has hit the skids a little bit himself, but you've got Luis Urias, who's been able to give you some nice power. 6 home runs in his first 78 at-bats. Do like to see that. And for the New York Yankees, they currently lead the American League in terms of run scoring, and that wasn't their problem yesterday, as you still have Aaron Judge with 14 home runs, north of a 480 on base. It's just absolutely ridiculous what we're seeing out of him right now. Ben Rice has seen a bit of regression, but 8 bombs, 355 on base. Paul Goldschmidt, north of 390 on base. Cody Bellinger, Anthony Volpe, along with Austin Wells, hitting at 230 or lower. These guys have been a little bit rough. Bellinger and Volpe both have 5 home runs apiece, so that's been a little bit of something. And Trent Grisham being able to supply 10 home runs in less than 100 at-bats. That's been relatively nice as well. But again, there is a little bit of shakiness with the New York Yankees, and flat out, we don't know who they're going to be pitching. Like I said, if it was Clark Schmidt, I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 113 on the Yankees, and a plus 115 or higher we'll be looking at the A's. And when it was Schmidt versus Severino, 10 or less was looking at the over 10.5 or higher, the under. If it is a bullpen game or something like that for the Yankees, I would probably be thinking about 10.5 or less to the over, 11 or higher to the under, but depends upon the situation. And if it is some sort of a bullpen game for the Yankees, probably looking at a little bit closer to a pick-em line, but we need to know who that starter is, because right now we're a little bit left out in the cold on that one. 967, 968 on the betting board. It is the Baltimore Orioles. They're on the road. They're facing off against the Los Angeles Angels. And it is going to be Tyler Anderson going for the Angels. It was looking like Zach Eflin was going to be able to get this start for Baltimore, but right now the betting board reads to be determined. When you were seeing Eflin versus Anderson, the Orioles were listed at about a minus 128 to a minus 135, plus 114 to a plus 116. That number on Los Angeles, 9 being the total, over and under both at minus 110. And on those numbers, I was going to be willing to take a plus 121 or higher with the Angels, which we should have gotten when we got the dime lines. And then I was going to be taking a shot on the under, a sub I told at an 8.7. And if you do indeed get Zach Eflin, which that's a big giant roll of the dice, because right now for the Baltimore Orioles, man, it's not great to say the least. I mean, he's always been a good command pitcher that'll give you fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings. Not a guy that's necessarily going to blow you away. A guy that, when you do have some funky ballpark dimensions, and this is not necessarily the world's greatest ballpark for him, he does have the propensity to give up the deep ball a little bit. But that said, this would also be his first start in quite some time as well, after he was dealing with a little bit of injury. So we shall see what is going to be happening on that front. And for Tyler Anderson, he's actually been rock solid this season. Tyler Anderson is not a strikeout guy, so he needs to try to induce some soft contact. Thus far this season, he's been able to do so, but I don't necessarily know how sustainable this is going to be, as he's right now got a 268 ERA, 487 fielding dependent. He's giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, but they all just so happen to be solo shots. He's giving up 3.5 walks per 9 innings. He's not getting a lot of swings and misses. There should be quite a bit of regression that comes in from Mr. Anderson, but this is a Baltimore Orioles bullpen that, they're right there with the LA Angels in terms of worst bullpens out there in the American League. And this despite the fact that you've got Yennier Cano, Felix Bautista being able to give you all that they are. So that's a big giant issue. Why they let Danny Kalum walk in the offseason, I have no idea. He was very rock solid for them. You've been able to have Keegan Aiken be a relatively okay long guy for the team, but you've got quite a few guys out there that just have not been able to do their part with the team. And for the LA Angels, man, Kenley Jansen has given you some okay innings when the pressure's not on him, but when the pressure's on him, he pees down his leg. Reed Detmers does not belong in the bullpen, and when he is in the bullpen, he's just absolutely awful. Ryan Zephyrion has actually given you a few okay innings, but there is really nobody that you can trust in this bullpen. But for the LA Angels, you know that they're able to hit the deep ball, and that was really the kryptonite of Zach Eflin over the last few seasons. So I actually thought that this was going to be a little bit of a rough matchup for him. And again, Zach Eflin coming off the injured list. You don't know what you're going to be able to get there. Now, for Ori Solari, he's dealing with a little bit of injury, and Mike Trout is on the injured list, but you do have Logan O'Hoppe, who's hitting north of 275, 9+ home runs out of him this season. You've had Taylor Ward along Kyron Paris, both give you 6+ home runs, but a pair of guys are hitting at 220 or lower. Yohan Moncada trying to find the fountain of youth of this team, but Tim Anderson has been about as useful as a poopy-flavored lollipop. Nolan Schunall has given you a bit of something along Zach Neto, but that's hard to get all jacked up about. And then for the Baltimore Orioles, this has been a very hit-or-miss lineup for them as well. Gunnar Henderson has been able to hit for a little bit of average. He's hitting right around 258, but his on-base percentage only a 305, 4 home runs and 128 bats. You expect a little bit more there, and have been quite a few struggling bats for the team thus far this season. Jordan Westbrook is on the injury list, but before you hit the IL, he, Adley Rushman, along with Heston Kierset, hitting at 225 or lower, along Tyler O'Neill is also deal with injury. And those guys have been a little bit rough for this team. Whenever you give Jorge Mateo at bats, that typically does not end well. Ryan O'Hearn has actually been very solid. He and Cedric Mullins, 7+ home runs this season. Mullins has seen quite a bit of regression with regards to getting on base, down to about a 230 batting average. Meanwhile, O'Hearn is hitting above a 300. Jackson Holliday's not necessarily giving you a bunch of power, but he's been able to supply about a 340 on base. He's been able to find it a little bit more as well, so very interesting circumstance. If you do indeed get Eflin versus Anderson, plus 122 or higher, we're looking at that Angels money line along with the over, but if you get some sort of an Orioles bullpen and or Kyle Gibson, yeah, that'll be rough, and that total is going to be going north of 9, and I would think that if you get to Kyle Gibson, man, I think that he pitched a few days ago, so I don't think that you would get Kyle Gibson, but I'm just hoping for Kyle Gibson because that guy is an absolute fade right now. But that said, we'll probably be looking at a bullpen game at the very minimum, a 9 or less to the over, 9.5 prior to the under, and that would be becoming most likely a little bit of a closer to a pick-em line with regards to that money line. 969, 970 on the big board. The Toronto Blue Jays are on the road against the Seattle Mariners, as it is a Bryce Miller is on the bump for Seattle, and Jose Urena is on the bump for Toronto. Toronto does find themselves anywhere between plus 140 to plus 145 underdogs, minus 157 to minus 170. That number on Seattle, with 8 being the total, over is minus 120, and the under is even. And for the Blue Jays, I did set them at a plus 183 if you're looking to lay a run half with the Seattle Mariners. Most places do not have that run line price up on the board, but I'm right now seeing one initial one over at FanDuel. You're able to get a plus 125, and I'd be willing to take that. I think of pretty much a plus 112 or higher. I'm willing to take a shot on the Mariners run line. I just have absolutely no faith whatsoever in Jose Urena. And for anyone that's ever bet on Jose Urena, you know exactly why, because the guy really doesn't give you a lot of swings and misses. The command is always wonky, and just in general for Jose Urena, last few seasons have not been tremendous for him. We'll say that 2024 for the Texas Rangers, he did post up a somewhat respectable 380 ERA with a 462 fielding independent, but man, it's just for a guy in his career with a 479 ERA, 489 fielding independence, 6 strikeouts and 3.5 walks per 9 innings. You just don't have high expectations here. And for the Seattle Mariners, this has actually been a really good lineup thus far this season. For Seattle, they're at number 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, number 3 in terms of the American League, and they play in a ballpark that at T-Mobile Park, it actually suppresses offense more than Coors Field elevates offense, and yet you've got big dumper Cal Raleigh, who's done an incredible job of being able to supply this team with 12+ home runs thus far this season. You've been able to get quite a bit of production recently out of a guy that I like in Ore Polanco, who he entered into yesterday, give you well north of 380 on base. He's been able to supply the team with 9 home runs in his first 100 at bats. JP Crawford is giving you about a 400 on base. Randy Arozarena not hitting for a lot of average, but he's been able to do a solid job moving the line. Julio Rodriguez, CBB snapping out of some of his early season funks as well. And Leody Taveras, they pick him up from the Texas Rangers. He should be able to give them a bit of something moving forward. And for the Blue Jays, nobody on this roster entered in yesterday with north of 4 home runs. George Springer's actually been solid. He's been able to give you nearly a 400 on base. He was able to supply 4 home runs, and Viger Jr. still giving you north of a 380 on base, but only 4 home runs this far this season. Bo Bichette, he's hitting for about a 285, but again, not a lot of power. And Alec Barger, he's been able to give you a little bit of something, I should say, Edison Barger, and then you've got Alejandro Kirk, who's been able to move the line as well. Get back to Varsho, was giving you 3 home runs in his first 26 at-bats, but you just need a little bit more power for the team. And both of these bullpens, I'm neither here nor there on. Like, with the Blue Jays, it's a pretty top-heavy lineup. Yimi Garcia along Jeff Hoffman, both of these guys have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. Chad Green has been giving you more of a 3.6 ERA, but he's a guy that I like. But when you get into the likes of Brandon Little, Yariel Rodriguez, you just don't know what you're going to get out of them. And then Andres Munoz of the Seattle Mariners is one of the better closers that you're going to find in all baseball. And Gabe Spire has been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. I just don't trust in Edward Bazardo whatsoever. I don't know why that guy gets innings. So the fact that they get Matt Brash back off the injured list is solid. Colin Snyder, about a 3.3 ERA. Nothing great, nothing terrible there. But that said, I do think that for the Seattle Mariners, they do a really good job of being able to get to Mr. Jose Arena. And when it comes to Bryce Miller, this guy's always been much better at home rather than on the road. For his career, sub-280 home ERA, a north of 4.4 ERA when he was on the road. Last season was able to do a nice job of being able to bear down on the punch-outs. And this season, more around about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Needs to keep the walks down as he has given up 4+ walks in 2 out of his last 3 starts. Last start against the Oakland, shall we say, Sacramento A's, he did give up 4 runs in 4 innings, but didn't give out any of those walks. For the season, he has given up about 5 walks per 9 innings, but I think that he's going to round into a little bit more form here against the Blue Jays team that doesn't necessarily do the world's greatest job of being able to draw walks. So it is a circumstance where I am very much going to be willing to trust in the Seattle Mariners on the run line. I think that their lineup has proven to be trustworthy enough for that, so we're going to be looking there. I did set my total at 7.6. I expect a really nice start here out of Miller, so I'm also in on this total under 971, 972 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays. Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Rays. Chad Patrick is on the bump for the Brewers, and total on this game is 8.5. The over is -120. The under is even on the Rays. You're going to be getting them between -136 to a -142, +118 to a +126 is that number on the crew, and I'm going to be willing to take the Brewers on the money line. I did set them at a +114. Drew Rasmussen and Chad Patrick actually have very similar numbers thus far this season. With Mr. Chad Patrick, he's been posting up an ERA that's right around about a 3.08 with a 3.82 fielding independent. Drew Rasmussen, 3.09 ERA, 3.71 fielding independent. Both of these guys hanging in the neighborhood about 7.5 to 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Both of these guys doing a solid job of being able to suppress hard contact. So, they've both been very much similar, and that makes sense. Drew Rasmussen began his career in the Milwaukee Brewers organization, so you've got 2 guys that are very similar with regards to that. Then it becomes what are you going to be able to get out of the offense and the bullpen. Bullpen advantage clearly there with the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a Brewers bullpen that is in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, which I really don't get because Jared Koenig, Elvis Figueroa, Yo Payamps, Trevor McGill, all these guys were there last season, and additionally, Abner Uribe has been really good in that bullpen, sub-3 ERA as well, and they didn't have him for much of the season last year, but you always know that with the Tampa Bay Rays, you're just going to mix and match, dink and dunk in terms of this bullpen. Pete Fairbanks is one of the better closers they're going to find in all baseball. And when you said it, has been a little bit suspect in that bullpen, but you've got a lot of guys like a Hunter Biggie, Manuel Rodriguez, who they used yesterday, Garrett Clevenger, guys like this. They're able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. But for the Tampa Bay Rays, this continues to be a bottom 10 team with regards to runs per game, even with the games being outdoors now. You've got Johnny DeLuca, Josh Lowe currently on the injured list, along Jake Magnum, who is hitting above 300. You've had Christopher Morel move the line a little bit more this season, but Taylor Walls just doesn't give you anything at the plate. Junior Caminero has been able to give you 6 home runs, but he's not necessarily doing the world's greatest job in terms of on-base percentage, actually up to 7 home runs with Caminero, with what we've seen over the last few days. But Jonathan Aranda, Brandon Lau, they both give you 5 home runs, and Aranda doing a really good job of getting on base. 420 on base. Lau is hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Cameron Misner, after a nice start to the season, he's starting to fade away a little bit as well. He and Chandler Simpson in between a 245 to a 255, and for the Brewers, it has been inconsistent with regards to the lineup, but you do have two guys that you can rely upon to be able to move the line, get on base in Bryce Terang along Sal Frelick. Both of these guys north of 360 on base, both guys hitting above a 275. And then you've had Rhys Hoskins not really give you a lot of power, 4 bombs and about 116 at bats, but he's giving you about a 380 on base. Christian Yelich hitting at the Mendoza line of 200. That's a little bit of an issue. He and Jackson Chourio 6 to 7 home runs apiece, and for Chourio, it's a 265, just a 282 on base. This guy refuses to really draw a lot of walks. William Contreras has been able to move the line a little bit for the team as well, but I do think that with the Brewers, them being a top 10 team in terms of runs per game away from them, going to be able to win out in this spot. Both of these guys allowing quite a bit of just general contact, so this is a circumstance where I set my total at an 8.6 at the 8.5. I like the over, and with the Brewers, we'll take a plus 115 or higher on that money line. 973, 974 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants are on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Pablo Lopez is on the bump for the Twins, and Landon Roop is on the bump for the Giants. The Giants do find themselves anywhere between plus 122 to plus 127. Anywhere between minus 137 to minus 145 is that number on Minnesota. It is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And with Roop and company, I set the Giants at a plus 114. So I'm going to be willing to dive in on that money line for Landon Roop. He is giving up a few more walks than what you'd like, but he's been able to do a nice job of keeping the ball in the yard, giving up only about 1 home run per 9 innings. So we should be in for some positivity with Roop, a 4.89 ERA, but a 3.89 fielding independent. He is getting about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. Again, the 3.5 walks per 9 innings. That's not necessarily amazing, but Pablo Lopez has actually been really good for the Minnesota Twins. A guy that for the last few years we've been like, oh, positivity coming for Pablo Lopez, and then it never came, but here it is this season. 10.1 strikeouts, so 1.4 walks per 9 innings. Spent a little bit of time on the injured list, but 2.18 ERA, 2.11 fielding independent. Like what I see there, but for the Minnesota Twins, you can't rely upon these guys getting healthy. If the wind blows the wrong way, Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton are both going to end up on the injured list. It's been absolutely incredible what we've seen there. And for Buxton, now hitting about a 280 with 9 home runs, so yay, verily there. You've got Ty France, who's been able to give you about a 345 on base. You've got Trevor Larnach, who's been a little bit rough, but he's starting to pick it up a little bit more. Carlos Correa as well, but Carlos Correa, 268 on base with 2 home runs. Talk about a waste of money right there. Brooks Lee has been able to move lines since he's come off the injured list as well, but Matt Wallner being on the injured list, that has been hurting the team quite a bit. And then flip side for the San Francisco Giants, their offense is very much suppressed by the fact that they do play in San Francisco, which is why they've always got some pretty demonstrative home and road splits. And for Willie Adames, took him a little bit of time to get going, but he had that multi-home run game about a week and a half ago, so looks like he's starting to be able to round into form. You've had Wilmer Flores along with Matt Chapman combined for 15 home runs this season. Chapman is giving you a 360 on base, but only hitting about a 222. Wilmer Flores is hitting closer about a 250, and Mike Yastrzemski starting to fade a little bit, but 377 on base, 5 bombs, you'll live with that. Just need to get a little bit more out of Patrick Bailey, Lamont Wade Jr., Luis Matos, guys like this. They're hitting below the middle side of 200. Christian Koss is more around about a 210, so need a bit more there. But Jung Ho Lee, about a 345 on base. I've been liking what I've been seeing there, and this has been a Giants team that has been in the top 10 with regards to their bullpen ERA. Camilo Doval, after a very brutal season last year, it looks like the Camilo Doval that we all know and love. Eric Miller, Randy Rodriguez have both been able to supply a sub 150 ERA. Spencer Bivens is a relatively good long guy as well. And for the Minnesota Twins, Griffin Jax just continues to get jacked up. He has been not good this far this season. Now, I do believe that Yohan Adon has some of the better stuff that you're going to find of any closer out there in all of baseball. And then Justin Topa has been able to give you sub 225 ERA. Cole Sands has neither been here nor there, along with Louis Varland. So it's a very interesting circumstance, but I'm going to be willing to trust in Roop in this spot, plus 115 or higher. Look at that money line. And I did sub my total at some 0.8. I do think that for the Twins, they are going to be able to get to Roop a little bit, but I think they gives a good start, and Lopez I still think is going to continue to be good moving forward for Minnesota. So I'm in on the under and the money line of San Francisco. 975, 976 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox plays the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara is on the bump for Miami. Sean Burke goes for the White Sox. White Sox are an underdog between plus 105 to a plus 113. Meanwhile, minus 120 to minus 125, that number on Miami. 8 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And for the Marlins, I set them at a minus 116. Once the dime lines come out, we should be able to find a little bit of value there. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Miami Marlins, you're getting that at a plus 140. I would need to get at least a plus 148 to be able to take a shot there. Again, when the dime lines come out, I should be on Sandy Alcantara. It's been not good thus far this season. Man, north of a 70 ERA for Sandy Alcantara. This is not the guy that we all know and love. Sandy Alcantara, the Cy Young form, has been abducted, and right now, whoever is out there is not Sandy Alcantara, because this is not great. He somehow has 2 wins thus far this season, but 8.42 ERA, 5.2 walks per 9 innings, and that's the issue for for Sandy Alcantara. He was never like some sort of an amazing swing and miss guy. He's got 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings this far this season, but the command was always good. That allowed him to go deep into games. We have not been seeing that thus far this season, but it's not like Sean Burke has been the Mona Lisa Vito of pitching or anything like that this far this season, as he's playing the team with a 4.35 ERA. Now, I will say he has given up 0 or 1 earned runs in 3 of his last 4 starts, but still has not necessarily been the world's most savory for him, as he has given up about 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. He has a fielding independence that's actually higher than Alcantara's at 598. He's getting 6.2 strikeouts for 4 walks per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a Chicago White Sox lineup that, well, they're the Chicago White Sox, which means that that's nothing good, to say the least. Andrew Benintendi has been dealing with a little bit of an injury, so that's an issue because right now he's been leading the way with about 5 to 6 home runs this season, and you just don't have a lot of guys in general that are able to find a way on base. Lennon Sosa has been able to about a 255 for this unit. Miguel Vargas, he only gets a 215, but closer to about a 310 in terms of that on-base percentage. But I am a believer that when you're on a bad team, that stink just sometimes seeps into you. That is the case for Luis Robert. 5 home runs, and Andrew Vaughn, I will throw in there as well someone like a Jacob Amaya, Joshua Palacios, Nick Batone. All these guys are hitting a $190 or lower with not a lot of on base. Like, that's just not good, to say the least. And both of these bullpens are not good, to say the least, as well as for the Chicago White Sox. They tried Garrett Clevenger in the bullpen. That was not great, to say the least. Mike Vasil has actually been rock solid. He's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA, so yay verily there. Jordan Leisure down to about a 4 ERA, but the likes of a Penn Murphy, Cam Bouger, Frazier Allard, all these guys give you north of 5 ERA. That's not necessarily tremendous. And I mean, for the Miami Marlins, you've got the Anthonys. Anthony Bender has been able to do a solid job, give you a sub-3.3 ERA, and when you go to Anthony Veziano, he's been relatively okay in the bullpen as well. Calvin Fauché, after a really rough start to the season, has been a little bit better for this unit as well. George Soriano just is very untrustworthy, to say the least. So Ronnie Enriquez is someone that they had to throw yesterday, and for the Miami Marlins, you pretty much have 2 guys that are able to give you power. Matt Burvis along with Kyle Stowers have both been able to give you 6+ home runs apiece, and for Stowers, about a 370 on base. For the rest of the team, it's very much a lot of station-to-station baseball. Dane Myers has been able to hit well above 300 for this unit, and Augustin Ramirez, 4 home runs in his first 58 at-bats. He has come from absolutely nowhere and has been solid. You've been able to have Javier Sonja be able to give you a little bit in terms of on-base percentage as well, but Jesus Sanchez is coming off the injured list, has been a little bit hit or miss. Grant Pauly is giving you a big giant nothing burger, and though Matt Mervis has 7 home runs, he's hitting just a $191, so very interesting roll of the dice here. At a -115 or better, I'm going to be willing to take the fish on the money line, and I don't have faith in either of these starters. I set my total at 8.3, so at the 8, I'm also going to be looking at that total over as well. 977, 978 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're on the road facing up against the Houston Astros. Ronald Blanco is on the bump for the Astros, and it is Chase Petty who is feeling very petty about his ERA going for the Reds, and the Reds do find themselves as underdogs between +122 to a +130. Meanwhile, -140 to -150 is that number on Houston. 8.5 is the total, over and under both at -110, and for the Astros, I set them at a -162 on the money line. If you're looking to lay around half, I'd be willing to take a +120 or higher on that. Right now, I'm fighting at a +143, so sign me up there, as you've got a guy in Petty who he made his MLB debut, and it's going to get better from here, but for Chase Petty, he's right now logging an ERA of a 34.71. When your ERA is north of 1,000 years into the future of the current year, you're going the wrong way. I think that goes without saying, as I think that Greg Peterson could give up 27 hits per 9 innings at 7.7 home runs per 9. Now, if you look at Petty and what he's done at the non-major league level, because obviously one start that's a little bit of an outlier as far as the season with the Louisville Bats, a sub-3 ERA, getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Command has ever really been the world's greatest at the minor league level, but he's been able to form himself into a little bit more of a swing and miss guy. Doesn't necessarily give up a ton of hard contact. There should be some positivity here. I still just don't know if you're going to get a ton out of Chase Petty. He's a young 22-year-old, so he's going to be going to the school of hard knocks, to say the least. And then on the flip side for Ronald Blanco, he has been one of the luckier pitchers in all baseball over the last few seasons. We've seen a little bit of regression with that this season, but now he's starting to get what he deserves. 4.98 ERA compared to a 4.91 fielding independent thus far this season. He's given up about 4.2 walks and 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, and this is a Cincinnati Reds team that, away from home, they're generating north of 5 runs per game. We saw them put up a touchdown and a field goal in the first inning yesterday, as both of these teams really had to go to that bullpen yesterday, as Brady Singer and Lance McCullers Jr. gave you a combined 2 2/3 innings between the two of them, so that was a little bit less than tremendous, but for the Cincinnati Reds, all of a sudden you've got quite a few guys that are moving the line for this team, as you've got TJ Friedel along with Gavin Lux, who are both hitting above a 275 for this unit. Santiago Espinal has been able to hit above a 300. Then you've got Tyler Stevenson back after he was dealing with an injury. Ellie De La Cruz can be hit or miss, but he was able to bomb yesterday. He's been able to give you a 330 on base. He's able to swipe quite a few bags, so like what I'm seeing there for the Houston Astros. No Yordan Alvarez in the fold has hurt this team, but all of a sudden Christian Walker is starting to round into form. Still need a little bit more out of he and Cam Smith, both hitting at 225 or lower. Jeremy Pena, Jose Altuve have been not necessarily giving you a ton in terms of on-base percentage, but Pena about a 280 batting average. You've got a Houston Astros team that's had a little bit of a tough time hitting the deep ball. I have to think that Yandy Diaz is going to be around into form a little bit more, but Isaac Paredes has been doing a solid job, giving you about a 375 on base. He's been able to supply a quartet of home runs this season, and for the Astros, they've got a big-time bullpen advantage. You've got the Brian King, Brian Abreu, both give you a sub-3 ERA. Stephen Okert has given you good innings. So Josh Hader is starting to look like the Josh Hader of old. Meanwhile, for the Cincinnati Reds, this is a bullpen that is slightly above average in my opinion. You've got Graham Ashcraft, who's been looking like a load of Ashcraft over the last few days, and I just don't trust in Emilio Pagan, but Scott Barlow, Taylor Rogers, Tony Santillan, Louis May, all, when it comes to the end of the season, are probably going to be able to supply a 3.5 ERA or better, so it does lead to an interesting circumstance. I just really don't trust in Petty, especially with the bullpen getting as expended as they did yesterday, and I do think that this is going to be a high-scoring affair. So by total 9.2, I like the over, and for the Astros, I'm going to be willing to leave that run line, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. It is the Philadelphia Phillies on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Luis Ortiz is on the bump for Cleveland, and Zach Wheelan and Dylan Wheeler is on the bump for the Phils, and Phillies do find themselves between minus 157 to minus 165 favorites. If you're looking to lay a run half on the Phillies, right now a lot of places have this off the board. The only place I'm finding a number is FanDuel, and to lay a run half, you're getting a plus 108 with the Phillies, and total on this game, you're going to be finding it at a 7.5. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 120, under is between even and minus 110, and I'd be willing to take a plus 108 or better with regards to that run line of the Phillies. So seeing that plus 108 or so, I would be willing to take a shot there. I set my money line price at a minus 155, so would rather have the run line, but I'm in on the over. For Zach Wheeler, it's been a little bit suspect for him, giving up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. I will say this about Zach Wheeler. You look at his career numbers, and in the months of March/April, he always has his highest ERA of the season, then he rounds into form from there, and for Wheeler, he's still giving you north of 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, almost a 3.35 ERA, so I'm not overly concerned about that. I'm actually concerned a little bit more about the bullpen that is right now supplying a 4.74 ERA. Orion Kirkering has been less than tremendous this year. Other than Matt Strom, Jose Alvarado, both give you a sub-3.5 ERA. You just have not had a lot of production out of this team. Tanner Banks, Jose Ruiz, these guys are a big giant roll of the dice, and Jordan Romano has been miserable for them. And for the Cleveland Guardians, Emmanuel Clase has been miserable for them thus far this season. They brought in Paul Sewald, which I did not like that move one bit. He's currently on the injured list, and when he's been out there, has been a little bit less than tremendous. You've got Cade Smith, Tim Aaron, Hunter Gaddis, give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but this is becoming Cleveland Guardians team that went from being number one in terms of bullpen ERA last season to being right around about league average. And for the Cleveland Guardians, you've been able to get quite a bit of production at the top of the lineup, as you've got Steven Kwan at a leadoff spot, giving north of 375 on base with a little bit of pop. You need Kyle Manzardo to hit for a little bit more average than the 221, but 9 home runs this far this season. Then Carlos Santana, Gabriel Urias, along with Kwan, all 4 home runs this far this season. Urias about a 336 on base. It took Jose Ramirez a little bit of time to get going, but he's back up to hitting north of 275, hit a home run already in this series. And Daniel Schneemann has actually given you 5 home runs this far this season, but you need a bit more average out of the likes of Nolan Jones, who's been injured, Brian Rocchio, Austin Hedges, Lane Thomas, John Kenzie Noel. I have a bunch of guys hitting a $185 or lower that sort of mix and match at the bottom of the lineup. And then for the Philadelphia Phillies, Alec Boehm was off to a little bit of a rough start to the season, but he seems to be rounding into form. And Kyle Schwarber is having himself one of the biggest years in all baseball right now. 12 home runs, north of 400 on base. Bryce Harper has yet to really get it going, hitting for a 229 entering into yesterday with 6 home runs. You just expect a little bit more there, but Trey Turner's hitting above 300, not a lot of power, and that's been the issue for the Philadelphia Phillies. 39 home runs in their first 38 games of the campaign, but Bryson Stott is moving the line. Yohan Rojas, along with Umando Sosa at the bottom lineup, they're hitting at 300 plus. Max Kepler, after a rough start to the season, he's starting to pick it up a little bit, and I do believe that there's going to be a little bit more power moving forward for the Philadelphia Phillies, especially going up against a guy in Luis Ortiz, who he's been a bit suspect this year. His swing and miss stuff has been up. He's been able to give you north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, which you do like to see. But for Luis Ortiz, along with those added strikeouts, you've seen a lack of command, and you've seen him give up a little bit more hard contact in general. As right now, he's given up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, 4.5 walks per 9, 5.30 ERA compared to a 4.23 field independent. And I do think that the Phillies are going to be able to get to him in this ordeal, so I set my total at 8.2. I like the overhand for the Phillies, plus 106 or better, willing to take a shot on that run line, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Johnny Venezia over at Rotowire for joining me in last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season on this podcast. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.